Matt Hardy recently appeared to teleport on an episode of AEW Dynamite during a face-to-face segment that he had with Chris Jericho. Now, it should be said, actually, that according to Hardy, he's not actually Matt Hardy right now. Or the body of Matt Hardy, has been taken over by Damascus. And Damascus is a 3,000-year-old being that is also able to sense the essences of other ancient people who are scattered throughout Daly's place. He mentioned that I believe Abraham Lincoln and Malcolm X were both in attendance on the most recent Dynamite, despite there was no live fans in attendance, but there were people from the past who did attend the show, according to Hardy. Now, some fans felt that Hardy's teleporting and his seemingly breaking the rules of physics and reality was sort of fourth wall breaking. That they don't want magic in their pro wrestling. So Hardy actually took to Twitter and offered up an explanation for how he was able to seemingly teleport on Dynamite without breaking said rules of physics or reality. And so this tweet he put out that said, "Heavens to Narek, Vanguard 1, our plan at last week's AEW Dynamite was practically perfect. We left the maker of pain, I Am Jericho, absolutely mentally intercoursed after you and the aerial assault robots flawlessly projected my plan. It was magic." And he had said in his promo, even on Dynamite, that Matt Hardy is magic, or he said he was magic. And so the idea here is that Matt Hardy didn't actually teleport on Wednesday, does not have the ability to teleport, but rather his drone flashed images of him all over the arena, and he seemingly moved from place to place in an instant, but those were just holographic images that Vanguard 1 projected, and then allowed the actual physical version of Matt Hardy to appear near ringside. And so this does bring up an interesting debate that has been going on in pro wrestling since at least 1994. And it is this idea of realism in wrestling and characters having supernatural abilities or magical abilities. And the reason I mention that it's been going on since at least 1994, it's been going on since at least the Royal Rumble in 1994. And that was when The Undertaker rose from the dead after losing a casket match to Yokozuna. So he was scheduled to have a casket match with Yokozuna. The entire heel locker room came out to help Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji lock The Undertaker in a casket. They then began wheeling him out of there, and I guess just being locked in a casket caused The Undertaker to die, or he was already dead, but then he rose. They did this whole Undertaker rising from the dead scene, and a lot of people said, wow, this stuff just kills the business. And if you come from a time in wrestling or the mentality in wrestling that this is supposed to be like a real but fictional sport, then when this type of supernatural, almost science fiction type stuff happens, it's fourth wall breaking for you because you're not able to you're not able to see this as the wrestling that you know. But then there's been other times. Well, I mean, we've seen this all over wrestling, especially in the last few years. Lucha Underground was basically all magic and comic books and that kind of mentality. And certainly when wrestling got more into the Attitude Era, the rivalry between The Undertaker and Kane was basically all magic. And if you go back to Broken Matt Hardy and the Ultimate Deletion and stuff they did with TNA wrestling, that's almost all magic and supernatural stuff as well. So it does beg the question a little bit of, is this Matt Hardy in AEW now with this explanation that he didn't really teleport? Are they going to be cautious or less willing to have the Matt Hardy character engage in sort of supernatural type stuff? Will they downplay that part of the character now? Now that they've responded to the criticisms that Matt Hardy's teleportation was, not very realistic. And this actually comes into play for Kris Statlander in AEW as well. Kris Statlander, her nickname is the Galaxy's favorite alien, or something like that. And she's announced as being from the Andromeda Galaxy. And Jim Ross just has no time for this character. He has basically told Excalibur on air to stop explaining Kris Statlander's gimmick being that she's an alien. And there's a few ways to think about Kris Statlander's character. One is, well, maybe she's not really an alien, but she believes that she's an alien, and that's her character. Or maybe her character is that she really is an alien. Or her character is that she's a wrestler that wants to convince other wrestlers that she's an alien. And you could ask those same questions now about Matt Hardy in AEW. Has his vessel really been taken over by a 3,000-year-old being named Damascus? Or does Matt Hardy simply believe that to be the case, but it's not, and he's really just Matt Hardy? Or is Matt Hardy a wrestler that wants other wrestlers to think that his body has been taken over by a 3,000-year-old being and that he has the ability to teleport? I don't think we have any answers to those questions. I don't think we're supposed to have any answers to these questions. And fans can then sort of fill in the blanks for themselves. Like if you want magic and supernatural stuff in your wrestling, Kris Statlander's an alien, and Matt Hardy really is has had his vessel taken over by Damascus, a 3,000-year-old being. If you don't want any of that stuff in your wrestling, then Kris Statlander is not an alien and either wants other wrestlers to think that she's an alien or has somehow done a mental gymnastics to convince herself that she's an alien. And same goes with Matt Hardy. If you don't want magic in your wrestling, Matt Hardy is just a wrestler who wants other wrestlers to think that he's magic, or he's done a mental gymnastics to convince himself that he's magic. Or if you want magic in your wrestling, Matt Hardy really is magic. I think that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more news or reports from Spoiler Free Wrestling.